Good morning, everyone. This is John Kogan. I'm the CEO of Proformative, the online community for corporate finance, accounting, treasury, and related professionals. I'm also a 20-plus year veteran of corporate finance and accounting and a 4-time CFO. And I would like to welcome everyone to today's webinar entitled Business Intelligence, Raising the IQ of Your Data. It used to be that not having enough data was a problem. Now, in many ways, there's too much data. It seems that every system we have, from CRM to ERP to accounting systems, supply chain management systems, expense management systems, you name it, there's a ton of data out there, but as we've all heard so many times, there's a vast difference between data and information. And these days, sifting through all of that data is actually a greater challenge than collecting the data itself. And not just sifting through, but making sense of it and figuring out how to utilize it well in your corporation, whether it's for financial analysis, reporting, etc. That is a real problem, and there are a lot of folks who do nothing but that in finance and accounting departments across the country. Today, we want to shed a little light on that. We want to help the attendees of today's webinar figure out how to use the data they have more effectively, understand which data they should be collecting, how to process it, how to make the most of it, and we'll be looking both at external data and internal data. So we're going to be covering an awful lot of ground this morning, and we're happy to have you with us to go through this, and hopefully by the end of this morning's session, we'll all be a lot smarter on this topic than we are right now. This webinar will offer actionable advice for finance and accounting professionals to help you feed key company decision makers the right data so that you and your coworkers can make the right decisions. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. First off this morning, I'd love to thank our sponsors, Host Analytics and NetSuite. This event, like everything we do on Proformative, is completely free. And without the support of sponsors like Host and NetSuite, we would not be able to do that, so we thank them. A quick note on today's agenda. We will hear brief presentations from 3 speakers, and then we will move to a panel discussion where we will spend the remainder of our hour. We would like this to be an interactive experience for you, so if you have any questions at any time, please go to the questions area in your GoToWebinar control panel and send us your questions. We can't promise to get them all in, but we will do our best. And please go ahead and just take one moment, look at your GoToWebinar control panel, see where the question area is, go ahead and open that up, and feel free to fire away at any time during today's presentation, even as we're going before we get to the Q&A session. We'll just queue up the questions and take them when we get to that part of today's presentation. We will send out a link to a soft copy of this presentation to all attendees, so you don't have to take terribly copious notes. The presentation will be loaded up on Proformative's website by the end of today. And as I mentioned before, everything we do at Proformative is free, so don't worry, you'll be able to get free and easy access to it, and we will send you an email that actually has a direct link to that. We are offering CPE credits for the CPAs in today's audience. The way that works is we will take 2 60-second breaks to take 2 quick polling questions during today's event. Even if you're not here for CPE credit, we would love it if you answer the polls. They are very broadly applicable questions. They give us some interesting data, which is all, by the way, anonymized, so you don't have to worry about being identified with your answers. But it actually provides interesting information for us to discuss during the Q&A portion of today's event. Another word about CPE credits. Most folks pre-sign up for CPE. If you did not do that, it's okay. You'll see towards the end of today's presentation, we'll give you the email address for Tanya Walsh. She is our CPE credit manager, and she will hook you right up. So don't worry about it. If you have any CPE questions at all, we are more than happy to help. Just stay on, take the polling questions, and you'll be in good shape. Okay, let's do a quick word about Proformative, and then we'll hop into today's content. Proformative, for those of you who are new to our platform, is the largest and fastest growing online resource for senior finance, treasury, and accounting professionals. It's essentially an online question and answer site for over 400,000 CFOs, controllers, treasurers, VPs of finance, etc. It's a very boring place. I tell everyone all we do is ask and get answers to professional questions. It's all free. It's all driven by your peers. And it's a wonderful thing to have. So if you want to know about almost any sort of issue that can impact folks in these functions, chances are someone else in our community has done it, and it's an amazingly giving group. So feel free to check it out on Proformative.com, and hopefully we'll give you, in addition to today's webinar, another tool that you can use to make work easier and better. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hop into our first presentation. And leading us off today is Vishrut Parikh, Director at NetSuite. Vishrut brings over 15 years of experience in enterprise software applications, including compensation management, incentive comp, sales performance management, CRM, and ERP. Prior to NetSuite, he worked at Calidus Software, where he was responsible for its flagship incentive comp product strategy and roadmap. Vishrut played a key role in Calidus' transformation to a SaaS solution provider. At Siebel, which is now a part of Oracle, Vishrut worked on incentive compensation solutions, consulting with Fortune 500 companies on deployment strategies and plans. And with that, Vishrut, I'd love to go ahead and hand it over to you.
All right, thank you, John, for that introduction, and thank you all for joining the webinar today. We are discussing business intelligence, raising the IQ of your data. Raising the IQ of your data, just like John mentioned, we have so much data that we need to raise the IQ before we can interpret that. It's true that in today's business environment, we all need to be an actuary to actually perform the job that we need to perform because we have so much data. Just one quick story that I'd like to share is that even we have an inherent need to interpret data. Every time we see something, it's got to be in a percentage, some comparison or whatever. Not my 9-year-old son, he plays Little League Baseball, and the other day, that was their first game, and after the game I told him that, you know, there were a lot of people watching your game today. And he comes back to me and said that, but Dad, 80% of those were parents. Now, I don't know how he knows there were 80% of their parents or whether he was accurate or not. I certainly did not expect him to come back with the percentage thrown back at me. But it seems like that's the need, that's the environment that we are in, that we need to be able to interpret data. And as in a business environment, that is more so true than ever before because we are inundated with data. We need to interpret that, come up with a good reports, analytics, so we can make appropriate decisions to move forward. But with that, the reality of the situation is that is summarized in this slide here, that we have so many different systems that we are running. We have about 5 different systems that we are running, and it has led to an inability for us to integrate these systems so we can get 360 view of our customers and activities that we are doing. Actually, we have no way to know what our data is telling us. This is the problem that this is a common problem that we run into today because we have so much of the data. Actually, in a recent research of 1,700 members of Institute of Management and Accountants, the study identified the most critical challenges faced by accounting and finance teams today. It also identified key technology investments to improve productivity. And in this study, the top 3 areas for investment for improving productivity were integrating disconnected business systems, applying business intelligence, and then the third one was replacing siloed or point solutions with a suite solution. Why? You know, we asked the members why. One of the primary reasons they wanted to integrate the system or have a suite solution was so that they can actually get the data out to make the decisions that they need to make to run their businesses. This is a common problem. At the same time, when we, after we have invested so much money into systems, when we talk to our customers or prospects, the common theme that we hear is that why can I not do these trivial things? For example, how come I cannot get a clear picture of my bookings, billings, and backlog? How come I cannot see my accurate forecasted revenue picture? These are the things that I need to run my business effectively. Why can I not do that? Why can I not compare actual versus quota versus forecast? I need to do that so I can accrue expenses for compensation. Why can I not do that? And also I want to know what is the real marketing and sales ROI. Knowing that will allow me to invest more money into the programs that are working and then tweak the ones that are not working, but I cannot get this picture in my business today. And more so like a cliche that everyone needs to be on the same page. How can we not get everyone onto the same page after investing so much into the systems and solutions? This is a common problem that we all hear all the time. Why can we not do these simple things? And one of the main reasons is that after investing in the same survey that we did with IMA, after investing money into ERP by automating back office processes, financials, sales CRM solution, the need for the key challenge with the ERP implementation completed is still business intelligence. There is no way for us to get the data out. For example, our sales teams often have no visibility into our back office information such as customer payments, renewals, inventory, invoices, and so forth, because they need this information to serve their customers better, but because it's an ERP, the front office salespeople do not have any visibility into this data to serve their customers better. They often rely on manual reports to get this information out and talk to their customers. The problem with that is that it's not a timely information. The data can be often out of date. And secondly, it requires so much time to come up with these manual reports that the productivity of those organizations or people is hindered by doing so. The question is that then, if we have done all the right things, how did we get here? Why is it that we still can't get the data that we need to make appropriate decisions? And investing in technology is the first step. But on contrary, after doing so, getting the insight into this technology, getting the data is the second step. And that's where a lot of companies, a lot of organizations are struggling with that. And on contrary, not investing is not even enough. They're looking to invest more money, as we saw in the previous slide, in getting in business intelligence area to get the data that they hoped for when they automated some of these processes. So what happened? I mean, what I'm about to say is a little bit contrary to exactly what we were talking about, automation. The main reason for not able to get the insight is due to automation. Yes, sounds weird, but that's true. Organizations end up automating their business processes with best intentions, but end up with unintended consequences. We like to call it application hairball, as you can see on this slide. We have automated our business processes. We have automated financials, sales, inventory, support, website. But now we are burdened with this manual process of extrapolating the data, getting the data out of these systems and making sense of that. And that part is not done. Therefore, companies are still looking to invest more money into business intelligence because to get the data out of these application hairball is not an easy task to do. So what do? What are the options that you have? One of the options that we have is that you go back and take a look at the very thing that we were trying to get away from is Excel. Not that Excel is bad or anything, but the point is that we're looking at Excel, we want to automate our processes so that we are not dependent on outdated versions of Excel. But in order for us to get back to the dashboards and reports that we are looking at, we go back to the Excel. We want to take the data out of all these different applications, centralize it into Excel, and then run some complex pivot tables to get the data that we want. And this is not an ideal solution after spending so much time and energy in automating all these processes, because Excel, as we all know, the data can get out of date very quickly. And this is not an easy thing to maintain because we have multiple versions of Excel, and then you're looking at the wrong data. And you, as a business leader, we are expected to make decisions based on the data, invest money, develop right products, and having this solution is not an ideal solution. But that's an option that we have to deal with by having many different disparate systems in our environment. The other option is that, and not that, we can all get rid of our Excel because we love our Excel. We can't, but at the same time, the fact of the matter is that according to ACCA, that more than 90% of the spreadsheets, they contain serious errors. This is what they're saying. But at the same time, we can't get rid of them because we all love them. But at the same time, that what is interesting is that 90% of us actually disagree, or we are convinced that our Excel models are accurate. This creates a big problem for organizations because you're looking or depending on this data to make right decisions and take the business forward. You actually want to gain visibility into your business, but having a wrong data doesn't really do any good for you. So what is another option? Another option is that investing in a world-class data warehouse. Now, this is not an option for companies of all sizes, yet getting the data out and gaining visibility in the business is requirement for companies of all sizes, whether it's a 5-person company or whether it's a multinational company. They all need to have information so they can move their business forward. But investing in a data warehouse is not an option for everyone. This is an expensive proposition because what we want to do is that we want to take the data out from different applications that we have applied to automating business processes, centralize that into data warehouse. This requires custom integration from all the different applications and centralizing the data into data warehouse. After that, you apply a reporting tool on that, and then at the last step, you will get the dashboards that you need. Now, doing so, you have to make sure that you keep maintaining this data warehouse, because just imagine you have different vendors that you have selected for your business processes. You have, for CRM, you have one vendor, for financials, you have another vendor, and for reporting analytics, you have another vendor. If any one of these vendors, they do upgrade to their solution, you have to make sure that that change is represented in data warehouse before you can get the accurate data out that you need. So this is an expensive proposition, but it's another option. May not be available to all the companies, but that's another option. The key thing to realize is that the data in this scenario is also not real time. Someone needs to do the extrapolation, goes into data warehouse, and so it's not a real time. So data that you have and the visibility that you have is not real time, and it's actually cumbersome to maintain this environment. Then potentially you can look at the option 3. What about using cloud to lower costs for business intelligence? Well, that's definitely an option, but with cloud, it's not that analytics can be solved by cloud alone. Yes, cloud is going to help us maintain the application. We don't need to worry about the upgrades, and we don't need to worry about individual applications applying the upgrades, but at the same time, they're still a disparate system in the sense that some work needs to happen to get the data out of all these different systems in a centralized repository before we can get the visibility into what our business is doing. So cloud helps, but it doesn't actually solve the problem by itself. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. Going to cloud is not going to resolve the problem that we're talking about here. So what is one to do then? So one of the other options that possibly is that you can have a cloud application along with a business suite underneath it, in the sense that instead of having a siloed application for your business processes, potentially you can have a business suite in cloud. Now, suite software that supports entire business, in the sense that from accounting to ERP, enterprise resource planning, to customer relationship management, CRM, or web capabilities. If you have that in a single integrated environment, now we have solved a major problem of consolidating the data from all these different siloed applications. The inherent design of a business suite, is that the repository is constructed so that data can be pulled out from different areas of your business because it's a single repository. There's no need to consolidate these data outside of that business repository. So this gives you an advantage. It gives you a step ahead that you can actually look at the data in different areas of your organization, from CEO to support manager, an e-commerce manager, or vendors and partners. You can potentially extend this application to your vendors and partners so they can also get to the same data that you're looking at to make decisions. And the beautiful thing about having a business suite underneath in the cloud is that data is real time. In a scenario, for example, a support manager makes an update to your customer that you're looking at on a service call that they did, that information is readily available to a sales rep who's going to make a call for upselling something. Or for example, if a warehouse ships out a widget on Tuesday, now the inventory is updated automatically, and the sales rep who's promising when they can have a shipment of their product, they have a real-time visibility into the inventory system to say, okay, you will get this on this day because this is what we have. This is the visibility, this is the information that we are looking for so that we can make decisions appropriately and we can run our business efficiently. There's a possibility that you get the cloud plus the business suite. It closes the gap, obviously. You still need to do some work, but it brings us closer. And as we are looking at, gaining the visibility, I mean, the questions we get, what are the things, what is the best-in-class visibility? What should you be looking for? First and foremost, we live in an environment where things are happening so fast that we need to get real-time visibility. This eliminates the decision-making based on out-of-date data. I mean, at this point in time, the way things are changing, there's no time for us to waste, in a sense, about am I looking at the right data to make the decision, or this is the real-time? Real-time visibility is a key factor that you should look into when you are developing best-class business visibility. Other thing is self-service reporting. You want to minimize and potentially eliminate the dependency on IT to create your reports or dashboards, or giving power back to the end user by selecting the tools that enables them to create their own reports and dashboards helps them be more productive, and you're not relying on IT to help you do that. And then dashboards and reports should not be something that you look at once a month or once a week or once a quarter when there's a meeting, but this should become the part of day-to-day job. They should be looking at their dashboards, and they should be making decisions based on the analytics reports that they're looking at. It should be actionable. It's not something that you discuss in a meeting. So make it a part of their day-to-day life. And then, of course, you want to have a shared view of the data, meaning that every aspect of the business, all different players in your organization should share the same data. So everyone's looking at the data, and everyone is making a decision using the same set of data, as opposed to making a decision on an old version of Excel or anything like that. And key thing is that since we have so much data and so many things are possible, like John mentioned in the beginning of the call, is that we want to make sure that we are able to create role-based dashboards. So I'm looking at what is important to me to do my job. So the data has to be relevant to me. It cannot be just anything or all the data that I have access to and I go figure out what I need to do. That makes me less productive. So once the data is relevant to me and I have created a role-based dashboard, that makes me more productive and I can take action on that data. And presenting data in a summary form is important, but at the same time, we need to be able to get the details of that summary in a timely manner. So it should be able to provide you with the KPIs that you need to get to the solution if you're solving a problem. So the details underneath the summary is very important to look at. What to look for in dashboards? Now, once you have considered all these traits for building the best-in-class business visibility, what are the key things that you should be looking when you're building out your dashboards? Well, first and foremost, you want to make sure that you create appropriate KPIs for the role-based KPIs. If I'm in marketing, I should be looking at the marketing KPIs. Where is my lead conversion? What is my contribution to the pipeline? What is the revenue contribution that the marketing has generated throughout the quarter? These are the KPIs that should be looking at. And at the same time, if something is not going the way it's supposed to be going, there should be some alerts, and there should be thresholds set so that people are notified before it gets too late. From finance, for example, or in sales, I should be able to do my forecast, take a look at pass that forecast onto the finance, my budgets and variance. My KPIs should be directed towards my job role, what I'm responsible for. It should be easy to customize in the sense that the KPI is either not working or if the business need changes and I need to look at some different metrics, I should be able to change that KPI myself and not rely on IT once again. So everything that I'm doing is in a timely manner. And once again, we talked about this role-based. I cannot emphasize enough that the dashboards and KPIs have to be role-based so that I am able to take action on what I need to do. And last thing is that it cannot be just reports as a task. I'm creating this report as a task. No, that should be part of my day-to-day job, and the KPI should give me enough information that I can take action on that. And by what it gives me better visibility means what? Unifying the data. The number one problem that we looked at from IMS study is that even though companies have spent money and invested so much in automating, the problem is that unifying the customer data. If I want to look at the customer, all these different aspects of a customer, how do I get that? And the key thing is to having a centralized repository, whether you create that after you have automated or you start with that. I mean, and there are advantages of starting with that as well, because all these information that we are looking at, getting the quote information to finance versus getting the channel information to appropriate salesperson in a timely manner will make the business successful if you can provide that information in a timely manner. At this time, I'd like to discuss some of the future trends, what's happening, and what we see in the field, and what type of questions or requirements that we are seeing. One of the things that we are seeing is anywhere analytics for the individual. For finance, for sales, marketing, I should be able to get to my data from anywhere at any time. With the mobile work environment that we have, it's expected that we are able to get to the data that we need and make decisions on that in a timely manner. So this is one of the trends, that whether solution that we have, do I only get it when I'm in the office, or can I get that on my mobile devices? Can I get that in real time? Can I just log in? Do I need to have, do I need to be in a particular location to get this data? These are the things that are happening, and more organizations, businesses are moving towards where data and analytics are available to appropriate people at any given time. Other trend that we are seeing is that the global aspect of it. Our nature of our business is global, whether it's the manufacturing firm, whether it's the financial firm. Things are happening outside of the United States, for example. Maybe you have a headquarters here, but manufacturing is happening somewhere, the service provider is somewhere else, but the global aspect of it, the visibility to all the partners anywhere in the world is becoming key, that everyone looks at the same data. They're not looking at data that is a week old, 2 weeks old, and you're looking at some different version of data to make a decision that's going to be not beneficial to your business. So global, anytime global visibility is another trend that we are seeing that customers and prospects are asking us for. And the last thing that I want to talk about is that key thing that I want to benchmark where my organization is to industry benchmark. And with the cloud, with the analytics in cloud, I can potentially do that in a sense that if I'm a manufacturer, if I'm a service provider, I want to look at the KPIs that I'm interested in, my metrics, and compare them to the industry standard. What are the other companies doing? This gives me an information and insight into change my business processes or systems and tools, and provide appropriate training so that we are all in line and moving towards the same goal that we all have. So in a summary, what I like to say is that what works? When you are linking visibility to productivity, what actually works? So first and foremost thing seems obvious is that I should have pure systems. When I have pure systems, I have less versions of truth. I'm only managing one version of truth, and I can pull data from that, so everyone looks at the same data. Integrating analytics makes them actionable, meaning that I should not rely on IT to create my dashboard. 1 week later, I get a dashboard. 2 weeks later, I get a report. No, if I want to make it actionable, it should be part of my day-to-day job, and it should be easy to create that. And at the same time, I want to have real-time analytics, because we are moving so fast, things are changing so fast that the real-time data is key. Having something to be, if I need to create a data warehouse, it's not real-time at this point in time, or if I have Excel-based reporting, it's not real-time. I need to get to real-time reporting. And make analytics accessible, I mean anywhere, anytime. I should be able to get to the data when I need to, because we are all mobile. It's mobile workforce. I should be able to get the data when I need it so I can make appropriate decisions. So these are the key things that we should be looking at when we are looking at the business visibility. John, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that, Vishrut. Excellent information. And before we go to the second speaker, I'm going to go ahead and launch our first poll. So please go ahead and take this. Very simple. Once again, we're not testing your knowledge here. We're trying to extract information that can be useful to all of us, and we'll come back to this question during the Q&A period at the end. Even if you are not here for CPE credit, please feel free to take 5 seconds and take a look at this question and give an answer. That would be great. I would like to remind everyone to use the questions area in your GoToWebinar control panel. If you have any questions for any of today's speakers, we are queuing them up here, and we'll go ahead and get to them when we get to the Q&A session. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and close down the poll, and we will move on to the next part of our presentation today. And I would like to introduce Michael Husinek, who's a Director of Business Analytics at Baker Tilly. Michael leads the Performance Management Group for Baker Tilly Consulting and has over 12 years of experience with small, medium, and large companies. Michael's focus is on assisting organizations as they develop their business analytics vision and roadmaps, as well as design their information architecture and delivery platforms, which are needed to deliver increased performance levels. Michael, welcome, and please take it away.
All right. Thank you, John, very much. Just a little bit more about me. I am a CPA, have both finance and accounting degrees. Been in the business intelligence and corporate performance management field for just about 15 years now. So it's really exciting times for me in this area. The information really is just exploding, and some of the technology advances that are coming into play are really presenting a lot of new opportunities and some challenges to go along with that. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. So in specific, what we'll go over is the data explosion, some of the new types of information that are out there to be taken advantage of, the business opportunities that those new types of information are creating, and some of the challenges that go along with that. We'll also discuss the role of finance in driving and managing those opportunities. Finance really is uniquely positioned within an organization to help shape how you leverage information, so we'll dive into that a little bit. And then we'll talk about key considerations around creating an information strategy. The companies that we work with that really leverage information best do have what we call an information strategy, and that's around bringing the capabilities necessary to leverage that information throughout the organization. So if you think about how information kind of has started and grown over the years, like Vishrut was saying, it really did start with ERP data. Organizations with SAP and Oracle are starting to put in these organization-wide applications that collected just a wealth of information throughout the organization. That started the business intelligence landscape of needing to make sense of that information. Then what we saw is that started to get integrated with CRM data, customer data, point-of-sale data, different web tracking data, continuing to build on the amount of information that was out there. And what we're seeing over the last couple of years that's continuing to explode is this new age external environmental and market data. And this is really 80% of all new information that's out there is coming in these forms. So what do we mean by that? Things like Yelp and Facebook, right? New channels to the customer, new advertising platforms, financial data, collaboration software, so how people within your organization communicate, how your sales teams communicate, new information about the customers. Mobility is a huge area that's exploding, so that's changing the way that information is delivered both within your organization and externally to your customers. All the applications that sit on top of those mobile applications, there's over 500,000 applications available in iTunes now, so just a tremendous amount of information that's out there. Things like Twitter and blogs, new types of information. This is often unstructured information, so a lot of information, but like John alluded to, a lot of it's not relevant. So how do you kind of get the information that you need out of those blogs and Twitter feeds? YouTube and other video formats. Weather data is something that we're starting to see a lot of activity around integrating that in with their core financial and transactional data. Also Google-based location services and Google Maps-based services. We were talking with a company recently that they had installed devices on their delivery trucks to track acceleration and deceleration and out of the norm movements of the steering wheel. And what they were doing was they were looking for risk areas and then combining it with the location-based services to give the drivers an actual picture of the road and the spots on the roads that they were having trouble with, really working to dramatically reduce health and safety costs throughout the organization. And Vishrut also alluded to this one, that benchmarking is something that's becoming really interesting as people move to those more cloud-based solutions. The opportunity to benchmark and really help focus where you want to leverage information within those organizational processes is something that we're really starting to see take hold. So when you look at it, what all of this new information is creating is it's really 4 areas of challenges, and there is a lot of opportunity within this information, but the challenge that you have to deal with is it's not only volume. Volume's been around for a while. There's some pretty good solutions to deal with the volume issue, but what we're seeing is it's the variety and the velocity and the volatility of this information that are presenting the new challenges. What do I mean by that? In variety, you can see all the different types of information that's out there on the screen right now. All sorts of different formats, right? Velocity, things like Twitter and blogs, that's constantly coming at you, right? So it's not only just, load up the data one time a night, let's look at what it was yesterday, but, getting to more of that real-time data that Vishrut was talking about. And the volatility of the data is a challenge as well. So it's not always in a common structure, right? If you're going along with the Twitter analogy, if you think about, if Twitter changes some information that's associated with that feed that you're monitoring, they don't tell you. Right? So you need to have a plan to manage that volatility within the data. All creating just a lot of challenges. The information challenge really is just getting harder. A recent study that was done shows that 1 in 3 managers frequently make decisions without the information, and 1 in 2 don't have access to the information. So the information is available within the organization, but they just don't have access to it. It's in different places. They have to manually consolidate it. Again, things Vishrut was talking about. And something that's new, this is an exciting new area, is more the predictive or advanced analytics area. So 3 and 4 leaders would like to have better information around what they should be doing. How should I act? And we're seeing this start to emerge in industries where it typically didn't have a good hold. So this is just another area that is starting to take hold within the industries. Now, we're all finance people here. We like to put numbers associated with things. So what does it actually mean if you can better leverage information and decisions? How does that impact the financial health of the organization? This was a study done by IBM, the Global CFO study back in 2010, and they looked at what does it mean financially for organizations that are better leveraging information, and these are the results that they came back with. So 33% higher revenue growth, 12 times more EBITDA, and 32% more return on invested capital. So for those organizations that really can take advantage of the existing information they have and some of this new information, they're starting to see some of these results, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. Now, how can finance help drive an information strategy and better business results? The role of finance, they're the keepers of the data, right? They own the data within the organization, and then also they're uniquely positioned to understand the performance of the business, right? So intimate knowledge of the business in terms of which areas are performing, which areas aren't performing, unique knowledge in that area. Now, finance is very busy, right? So the first step in this is to understand where you want to plug in and where you can make the biggest impact, right? So take a lot of time to figure that out. Look at the strategic plans, where are the opportunities to really plug in there and where information can be used better. And then once you've done that, understand the roles and the responsibilities for the decision makers in those areas. Once you have that defined and know who the players are, you can start to work on the information requirements, right? So what information do they need? What information will actually make a difference? If I made this decision differently, how would it affect the P&L? And start to put a plan together to push that information to those decision makers. And again, when you're doing this, don't forget about all that new data that's out there and have a plan to leverage the pieces of that information that are important. And what you're doing essentially is putting together an information strategy and plugging into that. These decisions, better decisions, are possible with better, faster information, but you do need that roadmap which outlines some tactical quick-hit wins to build momentum around how information can be better leveraged to improve the financial health of the business. But keep in mind the big opportunities and the big strategic objectives of where you need to start focusing on that as well. And what you can do with that is to start shifting the processes to more value-driven activities within the organization, so removing some of those manual processes that you have now. And what we're finding is the ability to leverage that new information and those new insights really, and combining it with it being ability to adjust your plans quickly, is enabling organizations to compete more effectively and realize some of those results that we just talked about. So we've got 3 examples of companies that are actually using some of the new types of information that I mentioned today. We'll go through those now. Manufacturing company, what they were after was better field service and production decisions, right? So they make products, they put products in the field. Those products have parts. Those parts break down. They have a huge staff, huge cost around servicing those parts. So they were looking to get better information about which parts would be breaking down so they could better proactively service those, and then also make better production decisions so those parts don't get into the field in the first place. And so they were leveraging, traditional transactional type information, but along with machine diagnostic information and call center notes, so call text notes for the field service technicians that were out there, pulling out the relevant information from that unstructured data and combining it with that transactional information to get ahead of the problem. Second one is a financial services company, so they're around making better investment decisions. What they were looking to do was take advantage of the new types of information. So combining information like stock exchange information, news coverage information, Charles River database information, along with their internal investment databases to make those better decisions and better manage risk both for themselves and for their clients. And finally, marketing. Marketing's been around for a little bit, but it continues to be important. Think about what marketing organizations do. They have an outlay of spend up front, and then they expect a return on that, right? So it's integrating into your revenue forecast and your P&L items in terms of what they're spending. Using some more advanced analytics, customer segmentation, you can better target that initial outlay and reduce that spend up front, and then see a lift on the lifetime customer value on the back end. And another interesting area within marketing is what we see is companies are recruiting what people call people that have social clout. So lots of individuals that have lots of people following them, that's who they're recruiting. And if you think about all these go back into better budgeting and planning decisions. All of them focused on better enabling you to get a handle on your business. So a wealth of information is out there. There's lots of new technologies, lower technology costs, making this information accessible. The key is creating that information strategy. And John, that's it. Thank you. I'll pass it back to you now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michael. That was excellent. And we will get to our second CPE question after our final speaker this morning. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Alex Ortiz, Director of Product Marketing at Host Analytics. Alex heads up product marketing for Host. Prior to Host, he was a product marketer for Salesforce.com. Before that, he was a senior associate for Sierra Ventures, a top-tier Silicon Valley venture capital firm with over $1.5 billion in investments. Earlier in his career, Alex was an associate at Santander Bank's venture capital arm named B2B Factory Ventures. Alex, please go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thanks, John. So I'd like to continue the discussion that that Mike brought up on some examples and share with everyone what we've seen. Many of the finance and accounting professionals that we work with basically want to share some best practices of what we're seeing out there. And so, over the course of the 10 minutes, I'd like to share with you how companies are doing better planning, how they're removing risk from the monthly close process, and also how CFOs are having better board-level conversations by bringing in external information. And this topic's near and dear to my heart because back when I was working with our portfolio companies at a venture capital firm, many of the companies, unfortunately, would miss their financial plans. And usually, they would miss it because they're either over-optimistic on demand forecasting or they're not looking at the competitive landscape as it's shifting. And so oftentimes, companies would miss their plans, and then, of course, bad things happen. So with that, I want to share a little bit more about some best practices that we're seeing and some obstacles. So there's still plenty of obstacles out there, but now that we're in 2012, and data is not only all around us inside the company, but there's readily available data outside the company, and there's really no excuse anymore to not leverage data now that it's fairly structured and easy to digest. So with that, let's start off on a couple analyst stories here. So looking at Gartner, Michael Smith, an analyst there, in conjunction with Wharton School of Business, they looked at companies that used leading indicators and companies that did not, and they discovered that companies that use leading indicators have over a 5% higher return on equity. And that's an impressive difference amongst companies. And it's pretty logical, right? Looking in the rearview mirror makes it difficult to drive the car. So the problem that they're showing here, though, is only 25% of companies are using leading indicators. And there's lots of reasons for that. But I think what you'll see in some of the use cases is there's ways to address that. Here's another study, courtesy of Ventana Research, that underlines the challenges that the companies are having around incorporating leading indicators and competitive benchmarks. So 80% of companies don't get enough information around leading indicators, and 85% have limited information on competitors' performance. And so obviously, if you're starting from a point where you just don't have the information, it's very difficult to make better financial decisions. And then the third and final research data point here, also from Ventana, is they asked finance professionals, finance and accounting executives, what would make for more accurate forecasts. And the response was quite clear. Companies, CFOs, and professionals are looking to understand market trends. Things are changing and shifting outside of their company more than ever, and they need a way to sense, understand, and make decisions around that. And that also holds true for what the competitors are doing in that marketplace. So that's a little bit of the challenges that many companies are seeing. Let's talk about what companies are doing about it. So next up, I'll share three case studies with companies that we work with. First off is NPR. Most people know National Public Radio, listen to it in the morning. And speaking with the finance analyst over there, they create 1-, 3-, and 5-year plans to anticipate what their business will need. And as everyone knows, the 1-year plan tends to be more accurate than the 5. It becomes really difficult to get any bit of accuracy as that time frame expands out. And so if you think about what drives NPR's business, there's a couple key external drivers for them. One is media consumption in general. The second is pledge dollars as they're doing their fundraising campaigns. And then the third driver is corporate sponsorship. So the more that they can incorporate drivers that track what drives their company, the better and more accurate plans they'll be able to create. And so what NPR is doing is really interesting. They're bringing in external indicators via a cloud solution right into their financial planning package. And what this allows the financial analyst to do is easily add some of those external drivers to their planning process, so they can look at benchmarks, financial benchmarks of peer media companies. They can understand, what's going on in the consumer base. Obviously, with unemployment rates shooting high, that affected some of their pledging fundraising, and they're able to tie together their financial plans to that data that's streaming into their plans. Not only that, but they've also set up dashboards, so when there's any major shifts happening outside of their company, it's brought directly to them, brought to their attention. I think everyone's stretched for time and attention, and while you might follow the news every day, it's easy to miss some important developments that might affect your business. And so dashboards are a great way to keep on the pulse of the economy. So for NPR, they really are able to produce more accurate medium and long-range plans. and also anticipate what might affect their business. Moving on to the second case study with Marion Technologies. They're a company that builds and sells radiation monitoring devices, and they have about 700 people worldwide. And in fact, over 50% of their revenues are outside the U.S. So, speaking with the controller there, they had some real challenges around planning for foreign currency exchange rates. They work in at least 5 different currencies, and so as the markets have been shifting a lot on the currency exchange rates, it makes the controller's life very difficult, not only on closing the books, but also making some estimates on forward pricing on exchange rates. So what they've done to solve that problem is to bring in exchange rates directly into their close process and directly into their planning process, which also solves a third area, and that is the risk of typing in exchange rates wrong. If you're going out and looking at websites for exchange rates or doing something in an ad hoc fashion, it just increases the risk of typing in and copying and pasting an exchange rate in wrong, and that's risks that controllers do not want to take, and they know that it's on top of their list to automate those processes. So the upshot for Marion Technologies was now they're able to monitor the impact of rate changes across the different countries in which they work. They sleep better at night knowing that they've reduced risks of getting those exchange rates wrong in their models, and then it also allows them to true up their forecasts from future planning to actuals. And the next case study I'll bring up is actually one here at Host Analytics. So our CFO, Kelly Battles, goes into board meetings every quarter well-equipped to talk about financial benchmarking. It wasn't always that way, right? Many companies, have tried to stay on top of Edgar and the 10Qs and the 10Ks that are published there, but sometimes it's like searching for a needle in a haystack, and you can't always easily find what you're looking for, and it takes time, and you can introduce errors as you're moving information around. So what Kelly's doing is bringing in those financial benchmarks from public companies directly into our planning application. And so instead of looking at our competitors, we also look at peer companies that have gone before us, companies like NetSuite, like Salesforce and SuccessFactors, other successful cloud companies. And she looks at some key financial ratios that drive our business. And so what that does for Kelly is, she not only can do it very fast, she knows it's error-free, and then when she walks into the board meeting, they can have a substantive discussion on, what financial ratios we're achieving and how does that compare to companies that have gone before us. And of course, the board really appreciates that, and it drives better decision-making at that level. And so what I'd like to close with is just the notion that, there's tons of data out there, but the good news is now that it's organized and even baked into applications for financial consolidation and planning, it makes the job of finance and accounting professionals much easier and allows them to focus on the analysis and driving decisions that they've been wanting to get to for a long time. So I think the future is bright for us on this level. And I'll pass it back to you, John.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much for that. And everyone, we're going to go ahead and hop into our second and final polling question. As I mentioned before, yes, this is for those looking for CPE credit, but if you wouldn't mind taking a few moments and answering this, whether you're here for CPE credit or not, that's great. It gives us a little more data to look at. I'll remind folks that we have questions that we're going to be getting to, although we're only going to have time for a small number of questions. What we'll do is work with the speakers afterwards to respond directly to questions that we don't get to today during the webinar. So my apologies if we don't get to your question right now, but we will endeavor to get them answered. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close down this second poll. And let's go ahead and get all of our speakers fired up here and ready to take a look at our first polling question. So the first question was, my company leverages external benchmarks about our competitors in forecasting and planning. And I'll actually address this one to Alex. It's a little over 50%, a little less than 2/3. Is that surprising data to you, or does that sound about right in terms of what you see in the marketplace at large?
Well, John, I would say this is pleasant news. It sounds like the attendees here are better than the norm, or at least the what the analysts are surveying. So maybe we are working with a group that is not only thought leaders, but actually doing things on external benchmark areas. So I'm pleasantly surprised, and I'm glad it's this time.
Great. Well, you know, if they're performative users, I would say they're definitely outperformers in general. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next question. Which one of the following would most improve the accuracy of your company's revenue forecast? Michael, what do you think about what we're seeing here? Interesting top item, better technology to support the forecasting process, and number 2, more knowledge around market trends. Does that track with you know, the way your firm thinks about how most companies can improve?
Yeah, I would say that it does, right? Because if you look at what that's saying, it's looking at integrating, you know, more of that external data that I was talking about with the more knowledge around the market trends, right? So how can I get better insight into that? And then the technology, right? You know, a lot of people still are in that Excel world. You know, I think Excel has its place. It's very good for ad hoc analysis, but kind of moving data around and using that to make decisions can be a little bit tough. So leveraging the new technologies that are out there to move the right types of information around really do help.
Great. Sure, we've got a great question here, just a wonderful question. If finance leads the analytics initiative, what are the best ways to keep non-finance contributors engaged? And it's interesting when you look at your presentation, there's a lot of talking about integrated data platforms, et cetera. But I think that speaks to that a lot of the people who need to be entering data, managing data, and consuming information on the back end are non-finance professionals. How do you keep those folks engaged?
That's a great question. I mean, user adoption of the system is the #1 thing with any automation that you apply to your business process. So one of the key way that we actually, what we have seen that work in the field or in the marketplace is that showing them the end results, potentially saying, look, if you do this, the job that you're doing is going to become easier, and how the collaboration will bring the best out of decision making. So in a sense, one way is the finance can drive that initiative, but you're absolutely right that everyone has to be on board. And one of the key things is that the mandate has to come from the top executive. The whole, when something like this is going on in an organization, you have to have a top executive bought into it, and then the mandate should be coming from them, as well as there should be appropriate change management policies and procedures should be in place so that people understand what they need to do. So it's just more than just entering the data. It has to be a company-wide initiative. It's got to be driven by executives, and the appropriate change management policy and procedures should be in place before you take on some project like this.
Great. Thank you very much. And there are a couple of other questions. I will work with our panelists to get back to folks on. At this time, though, in order to get folks out of here in a timely fashion, we're going to go ahead and wind down today's program. Let me start by thanking Vishrut Parikh of NetSuite Michael Husanek of Baker Tilly, and Alex Ortiz of Host Analytics for their time and insight today. Great job, gentlemen. Really appreciate your time and all the wonderful information you brought to the table. So thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing from you again at future events. Folks will note on the screen right now, if you have any CPE questions at all, please email Tanya Walsh. You can see her email address right there, and she will get you taken care of. And please feel free to address any follow-up questions you perhaps didn't get in today or might find in the future at Proformative.com. The community is here to help. And as I mentioned before, it's all completely free, ad-free, noise-free, the works. And finally, I would like to thank, again, our wonderful sponsors today, Host Analytics and NetSuite. Without them, we would not be able to bring all of this great knowledge to our users for free. And that's wonderful. They also provided speakers today along with our friends at Baker Tilly. So thanks to everyone who supported this effort this morning. One final note, when I turn off or when you leave this webinar, you'll be presented with a survey. We would greatly appreciate your taking about 2 minutes to fill that out. We always like to figure out how we can do better the next time. So please let us have your great feedback. And in there, we make it really easy if you would like to connect directly with any of today's speakers. It's just a mouse click away, and we will connect you with them immediately. And that's it. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you next time at another event or online at Proformative.com. Take care.